Hi guys, welcome to the show. So this is Making Sense with Pence, and this is our little show and tell edition. So this is kind of like episode one, I guess you'd call it. As you can see, I am not alone. I'm joined by my very good friend and co-host, Peter from Triple G Comics. Peter, how you doing?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Yourself? Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. So
Good stuff.
yeah, we're gonna do Making Sense of Pence, which, is something that us Brits are very lucky to have. This is something that a lot of our US friends or other collectors within other countries don't actually have. We've been quite spoilt for choice when it comes to UK
Yeah.
comic books. So the way we're going to do things, guys, is that we're going to take it in turns to show three books each. And yeah, it's just a little show and tell, bit of fun. So we'll go into a little bit of an explanation about each book, but not too much detail. We're not going to explore the stories. So Peter, do you want to take it away with the first book of your choice?
Yeah, sure. Look, just firstly to say, it's really interesting that we've started doing these things because my good friend, Ephraim from Past Point One Comics,
I do.
he was talking the other day about Pence Comics, saying that he's wanting a one in his collection. So I think they're becoming quite desirable with some of our American collectors now.
Yeah, and it is funny that you say that because especially the US UK comics, if that
Yeah,
makes sense, and you guys will see what we mean in a moment. These particular books, they're put out by, they come exactly the same as the US comics. They just have a different price stamp on them. Now, obviously, over time, people seek out the Canadian price variants. But the UK price variants were always a bit shunned upon. Like people didn't really like those, but they have crept back up. It's
yeah,
kind of like when you talk about a CGC slab versus a CBCS slab, those prices have kind of leveled out now. And
yeah,
the
yeah,
same is said for these price variants. So, yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I think a lot of Americans might choose to have these in their collections.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm going for a slabbed book. I'm going for Tomb of Dracula number 10, which is the first appearance of Blade and a 4.0. This has got, as you can see, so CGC mark these as UK price variant. And this is a 6 pence copy because it's from the late 70s, I believe, or early 70s, 73, I think. So it's a 6p version. This is obviously, as we know, the first appearance of Blade in Tomb of Dracula. Got a bit of glare on the screen there, Luke, so I'll send you some images if you want to add them or
Yeah, no,
not.
that's perfect.
But yeah, so that's my Pence copy. Picked this up a while ago because I'm a massive fan of the Wesley Snipes Blade movies. And obviously now we know there's going to be a new Blade movie coming out. So this one might pick up a little bit in value, but this is a one that I'll not sell. This will stay in my collection forever, I think.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because I did sell my one, and do you know what? I kind of regret it. Blade is a fantastic character, and I've always been a fan of horror, always been a fan of vampires and zombies. And I picked up that book dirt cheap.
Yeah,
Found it out and about in the wild long after the Blade movies with Wesley Snipes had all finished, but before the MCU.
yeah,
So I had mine kicking around in my collection. It was a lower grade than a 4.0, so yours looks beautiful compared to mine.
yeah. Thanks.
But yeah, I actually sold it to a friend of mine, so at least I know it's kind of in the family. It's somewhere
Yeah,
safe.
yeah,
Someone who's not going to get rid of it,
yeah.
hopefully.
The collector.
watching watching them. But no, absolutely fantastic book, and there is something nice about seeing that Pence on there. I know that it's not for everyone, but for me, they're the comics that I grew up with. They're the ones that I remember seeing.
Yeah,
So I'm going to go for a book that's a little bit older than that because it doesn't actually say Pence on it. It's a 9D book.
yeah.
So here I have my first appearance of the Green Goblin in a
Nice.
5.5. Now, Peter, I have to admit, I'm a little bit torn when it comes to this cover. I love yellow covers, and I have like my
Mm.
wall of yellow over there, where I have this slab actually positioned. But I'm not exactly sold on the way that Spider-Man's drawn on that cover.
It
And
looks like.
I get that the yellow's meant to be the cave, but
Uh,
it doesn't really. If
I
this
mean,
wasn't, sorry, go ahead.
it's a classic cover, isn't it? And it does stand out. It's immediately recognizable. I'm not a big fan of the Hulk kind of box at the bottom there. I'd rather it
No,
was just a clean cover.
and
But now you're mentioning it, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking it looks like Green Goblin's about to give him a little tickle, doesn't it?
yeah, and do you know what? Like, so Spider-Man's draw. I love Ditko Spider-Man. Don't get me wrong. I like that he looks more bug-like, and this is a very bug-like position. So
Yeah,
I can't complain too much. But there's something about the yellow of the cave The Goblin is obviously on his broomstick. This is before he actually got the glider, and he was more portrayed like a witch. And then, yeah, like you say, that Hulk, he looks very much like Frankenstein. That
Yeah,
square
yeah,
head.
yeah,
There's not much going for this. So even
yeah,
though I love this book, it's very prized in my collection. This just isn't a great cover. There are better Goblin covers out there.
yeah, yeah,
So if it wasn't for it being the first appearance, I'm not sure if it would be a favorite.
yeah. But I mean, that's an amazing grade for that book. What's the date on that one, Luke? Is it
1964.
64? Yeah.
Yeah. So I've actually mentioned this story before, but I purchased this during my wife's birthday. We were out for dinner,
That
and I
was
saw.
nice of you for her.
I know, right? We were out for dinner, and I had already said like, "Oh, sorry, your presents weren't great. You know, money's a bit tight." And then this came up on eBay. It was unslabbed, and
Yeah,
it was £500. And I kept saying to her like, "Oh my God, that's so cheap. Like, why has no one snapped this up?"
yeah,
And then she kind of humored me a little. She was like, "Well, maybe there's restoration, this, that, and the other." She knows her stuff. We
yeah, yeah,
talk about it a lot. Um, and I said, like, I kept umming and ahhing. I kept looking at my phone, and she was like, "Luke, just buy it." And I was
yeah,
like, "But I can't. That'll set me into my overdraft. I couldn't even buy you a decent present. I can't do that. We're out for a nice meal. That should be enough." And she went, "No, just buy it. We'll sort. You'll always find the money. You'll sort it out. Buy it." So I did.
yeah,
And as soon as it arrived, I just sent it straight out to CGC because I didn't know if there was going to be anything wrong with it. And
yeah,
it
yeah,
came back a 5.5, and I
yeah.
couldn't be happier. I mean, this is a
Fantastic.
very nowadays, this is a very pricey book.
Yeah.
The last
So,
3-4 years, this has shot up.
so is it cleaned and pressed, Luke?
I had it cleaned by their people.
Ah,
Like
right, got
I
you.
can't
Yeah,
I can't think what the name of the company is. If you
yeah,
guys know, let us know down in the comment section below. But the company that does it for CGC. So
yeah.
obviously I had to wait a little bit longer to get it back. But yeah, I
Good
couldn't be
stuff.
happier with that grade. That's
Stunning.
perfect for me.
Absolutely stunning. So I think we're both going first appearances this time. Now I've gone for a double hit here. So we've got Fantastic Four and 48, first appearance of the Silver Surfer. Again, classic book, one of my favorites. Trying to get it to its image. There we go. One of my favorite books. Again, I don't think that's a good cover, mind. I'm not a big fan of that cover. I think it's pretty boring. But this is a where's the price? A 10D book, but it's also got 4 pence written on the cover. So in the UK, because obviously a lot of these books were coming into the UK market, they used to stick the horrible pencil marks on them or the stamp marks on them. So you get a lot of these older books with the Chinagraph pencil or the writing on. So yeah, so that's a Fantastic Four first appearance of Silver Surfer.
Yeah, and it's also the cameo appearance of Galactus, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
so it's funny that you should say that again. So again, that is a book that I have had and sold. This was all during the pandemic when I needed the money to support the family, and some tough choices were made. So whether or not I would have kept it overall, I can't really say.
yeah,
I'm not too sure. After supporting the family, I sold the entire Galactus trilogy. So I sold the whole lot to one seller, one buyer, sorry. And yeah, I mean that they're definitely books that are going to soar once that comes
yeah,
to the
yeah,
MCU. So there's always going to be a little bit of regret there.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, family comes first, and
yeah,
it did give me the opportunity to buy a new camera, which is what I do now for YouTube. So
yeah. I
it's
mean,
not to be shunned.
I've got the Galactus trilogy, um, but I have to say it's not Galactus and Silver Surfer aren't characters I'm absolutely wedded to.
Hmm.
So these are books that should there be a big spike at the release of the Fantastic Four when it joins the MCU, I might consider selling these ones because they're not integral to my collection.
Yeah.
Nice to have, but not necessarily massive keepers for me.
I think that's what's important, right? Like if you're not particularly fond of the character, it is okay to sell.
Yeah,
People keep hold of these keys just because they think that they should. I
yeah,
got rid of every key that I had, and I had a lot.
yeah,
And I've only kept my Spider-Man collection. All these boxes back
yeah,
here. That's all
yeah,
Spider-Man, guys. Every single one. Um, it's funny that you should say that though, because later on, maybe in a future episode, I will actually show some UK Pence Silver Surfer books because I
yeah,
had
yeah,
the entire Silver Surfer Volume 1 run with all the first appearance of like Mephisto and everything else. And I sold all of those, but I bought back the UK ones
yeah,
because
yeah,
at the end of the day, if you like the artwork, you like the story, does it really matter if it's a US book that's worth a fortune or if you just want a reprint copy?
Yeah. And when you talk on reprint, you talk on the larger format, kind of A4 comics.
Yeah, so that will move us on. Nice little segue.
Mhm.
So yeah, what I mean is one of these old newspaper styles.
Yeah. Nice.
So this one is POW, uh, issue number 13. And people will say, well, why do you want POW issue 13? And like, obviously, you've got the Sergeant Fury and the Commandos on there. You're not into that stuff, are you?
Yeah.
Well, no, not really. But it's a 7D book. And this is the first appearance in the UK of the Lizard, one of
Mm.
my all-time favorite characters. So when you open this bad boy up, which I might throw some images up on the screen because I'm not going to do it here on camera.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
if you open this up, you can see that there is the beginning part of the Spider-Man issue 6 Lizard story. And this then continues in the next issue, which these were, I believe, weekly. Am I correct, Peter?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so these were weekly. The fact that this has survived in this format, like this is really
Yeah,
flimsy newspaper, and
yeah.
it's not too discolored, and this is, like I say, a first appearance.
Because they
Um,
normally go yellow very, very easily.
they do, yeah. So what I plan to do, this is actually just across 2 pages for this section of the story. So what I plan to do is get a picture frame big enough to have this displayed open,
Yeah,
just
nice.
to show those pages. So yeah, that's my.
Very cool. Not a comic. I read that one, pal. I think that. What's the date on it, Luke? Sorry, was it
So
the?
the date on it is the 15th of April, 1967. So obviously
Yeah,
that issue 6 would have come out in like 63, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
this is
yeah,
many years later for us to get this copy
yeah,
here over in the UK.
yeah. Good stuff. Okay, so I'll end on a banger, Luke. So first episode of this, and the first appearance in a 9D copy, and this is my X-Men #1. First appearance of the X-Men. Picked this up last year from a shop down at the what do you call it, Glastonbury. Um, a book I've always wanted to own, and this came available. It was a stupid amount of money, but much like your story earlier, my wife just said, "For Christ's sake, just buy it," because I think I
Yeah.
whined on so much, and I really told her that this was an investment for the future and blah 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 blah. All the stuff you say to convince your partner that comics are not just comics. So yeah, so pick this one up. First appearance of the X-Men. This is probably the biggest key in my collection. Um, you know I'm a massive Thor fan. I've got my Journey into Mystery 83, but I think this pips it. This is probably the bigger book. Like I say, a 9D copy. No idea what the grade is. The guy, I think, said he thought it was around a 2.5. I want to get this graded by CGC, but I'm terrified. So this is an interesting topic at some point, I guess, look for a future discussion. When you've got big books like this, and I know you've got some mega books as well in your Spider-Man collection, the anxiety of posting it or sending it somewhere to be pressed or whatever, and then international post overseas because we don't have a grading company in the UK. So you've got to make that journey to America somehow, or what? It just scares the hell out of us. So
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm getting this graded because I'm not just banging it in the post. I tried to get it graded when I was in Florida in the summer, and they wouldn't do drop offs. So again, I didn't want to take it on the airplane and stuff. So yeah, I don't know how I'll do it. I might try and get down to London to CGC office and hand it to them directly. But that's X-Men #1, 9D copy.
Well, I tell you what, when you do, we'll make a trip to London together and I'll take some of my books too.
Yeah,
Because again, I'm just like you. I am terrified. And
yeah,
even if my books, to be honest, even if they do come back a, restored label or have some missing pieces, I don't think I would mind. It's more about just protecting them at this point
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Um, you
Exactly.
know,
So that I mean that comic there, X-Men 1, I don't really care what the grade is. I'm literally terrified of it dissolving in my hands. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So yeah, so I want to get it protected. And I would be interested to see what the grade is. I'm not gonna lie. I do want to see what the grade is. But yeah.
It is a fantastic book. I was so pleased for you when I saw you first announce that you had it. I was just
Yeah,
like, "Oh, mate, I know how long you've wanted that book. It'll
yeah,
be the equivalent of me finally getting an AF-15.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for. It's that whole debate, isn't it? Like whether or not you do take the risk of spending that amount of money on a raw book, or whether or not you want to buy it already slabbed, because at least then
Yeah.
you know what you're purchasing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when I purchased, there's a video on my channel if people want to look. But when I purchased that X-Men, I could have just bought it and got it sent up to us, but I wanted to eyeball it myself and have a good look. So I made the drive down from where I am down to look at it. I think it was about a 6.5 hour drive all in all, or something ridiculous like that. So it was a 12-hour day in the car, really, just to have a look at it. But I'm so pleased I did, so I
So
could just justify it
do
myself.
you think that journey in the car, do you think that influenced you into buying it? Like, did you feel the pressure then that you made that journey and you thought, I have to come away with this book? Or would you have just left it behind if you were unhappy?
If I'm being honest, I'd already bought it in my head. I was going to pick it up. Do you know what I mean?
I kind of feel like I'd be the
Yeah,
same. If you make that sort of commute, I feel like you have to do it. I
yeah.
feel,
I mean, if I'd get in there and there was pages missing, and I might have hesitated, or I might have, I don't know. It was a lot of money, so I would have probably had to have thought about it a bit more carefully. But actually, yeah, I think I'd already bought it in my head, and I'd already decided I was buying it.
yeah. Right. So my final book is a book by Marvel Comics. A lot of my stuff is Marvel. Sorry. But not one that people often think about when you think of Marvel. But over here in the UK, this was a really big series, and this went on for quite some time. And that is Planet of the Apes.
Yay!
As you can see, it's an 8 pence issue. Sadly, I don't have anything before this one. So this is issue number 9, and I don't have any issue before that. I have the
Right.
US versions before that because again, the US still released these as magazine styles, as magazine sizes. But they have different covers and obviously different prices. But the stories inside are the same.
Okay.
So what these comics did is that they began by telling the stories of the original 5 movies. So you had Planet of the Apes, then you had Beneath Planet of the Apes, Escape from Planet of the Apes, Conquest, and then Battle. And so these books would have X number of stories, X number of issues, sorry, to do with those movies. And then they started inputting their own side stories in there as well to flesh out the book and to give you more and explore that world a bit more.
Yeah.
Some of the covers for this are absolutely amazing. This one, great cover, don't get me wrong, but some of them are beautiful, like
Yeah.
nicely detailed painted artworks, much like the old Masters of the Universe style, like the
Yeah.
box art with those
Yeah.
luscious paintings. So
And
yeah,
I think that's one of the things. I don't know if that particular cover there is a reprint of a US cover or what, but with a lot of the Marvel UK stuff, a lot of the books had original artwork for the covers that were done by UK artists, and some of it is absolutely mind blowing. It
yeah.
really is. If I think of some of the Hulk issues I've got in that format, some of the covers were fantastic. Probably I'll show a few in a future video. But yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
No, you are absolutely right. We got original artwork too.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. So yeah, there you have it, guys. That is our Making Sense of Pence show and tell, kind of like episode 1. We are definitely going to do more of these moving forward. I don't really like numbering them because then I feel like people see like an issue, a number like 20 something, and they're like, oh, I haven't watched the rest. So we probably won't stick to a numbering system. But yeah, this is our first anyway. So Peter, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm at YouTube on Triple G Comics. I'm also on Instagram, Triple G Comics, and on TikTok, although I don't understand TikTok, but I am on it as well. So, and if people want to watch my stuff, I do videos and shorts probably every couple of times a week. And I also do a live show every Monday night at 8 p.m. UK time.
Perfect. So yeah, like I say, guys, there you have it. If you want to learn more about UK price variants, I have made a video that you can check out right up here. And yeah, we'll see you guys again soon. Take care.
Bye.